You're listening to the Microsoft Innovation Podcast, where we explore the intersection of people, business, and technology. This year, we're adding a new show to our lineup, The AI Advantage, to help you learn the skills you need to thrive in the AI era.
Welcome to the CoPilot Show, where I interview Microsoft staff innovating with AI. I hope you will find this podcast educational and inspire you to do more with this great technology. Now, let's get on with the show. In this episode, we'll be focusing on AI security, trust, responsible or being responsible with AI, trustworthy AI. My guest is from Seattle in the US. He works at Microsoft as a senior offensive security engineer. So AI red team. I love that. He's a public speaker, blogger, hobbyist game developer. He loves software and game development, of course, technology in general, music, and also a fan of Oxford comma. The Oxford comma. I like it too. I always use it. You can find links to his bio and socials in the show notes for this episode. Welcome to the show, Joris.
Glad to be here.
Mate, it's been a while since you've been on. It was episode 485, and way back in 2023 was the last time you were on the show. You were talking about Power Effects in a totally different category than you're in now.
When in 20, was it pre or post ChatGPT?
Pre.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pre-Chat GPT because it's September that year. So it's been a while. The world changed.
Yeah.
I'm excited to have you on. And by the way, if you're listening and you want to find out about food, family, and fun, I'm not going to ask Joris again. You can go see that on that episode back there and his journey into tech. I'm excited about your current role, AI Red Team. When I saw that you were moving in there, I pretty much asked you straight away to let's have a chat. And you're like, hey, let me get my feet under the desk and see what I've got myself into. What did you get yourself into?
All sorts of exciting things. So at Microsoft, any feature that involves AI has to be heavily documented and submitted to a central board, which is a huge thing for the size of the company and the breadth of the portfolio of products that we have. This is huge. Everything has to be centrally approved. And so as part of that, I mean, there's security reviews, privacy reviews, all sorts of things that have to happen. And then it gets to a central board here in Seattle. And so based on what they see, they can decide that, hey, maybe this looks like a high risk usage, or they feel like maybe the team doesn't quite understand the potential issues, or maybe it's just something super interesting. They basically kick that to us, to the AI Red Team. So we get involved. We test the product adversarially, but also as a regular user. You know, sometimes, as you've probably seen in the news as well, sometimes a regular user asks a very benign question and gets some really interesting non-intended responses. So we test for all of these things. And I guess it kind of depends on what the product is or does exactly. But this can go anywhere from testing a model itself. So the Microsoft, like the small language models, for example, the Phi series, we usually get our hands on those before they go out. So we test sort of more as in a broad scale, like how susceptible is it to like jailbreaks, things like that. Or we dive straight into products and see, hey, can we get it to generate bad images, or can we get it to exfiltrate data from your Power Platform environment, or, you know, whatever it may be. Sort of it's, and we usually have just a couple of weeks to do that. So depending on what exactly is happening, this could be anywhere from 2 weeks to 4 weeks of us. And it's interesting, not just because one, you get to see sort of tip of the spear type of things, constantly have to adapt, learn new things. Sometimes, a lot of times we get to see products that we've never used before. So you sort of have to dive in and figure out. So it's been a super, super interesting thing. So it's a mix of sort of traditional security things. Sometimes it's a mix of responsible AI, like, okay, is this product not going to be too biased against or for something, whatnot? Or is it like potential for harmful content? Like, in what way is this being used? Is it, you know, just generating images or children's stories, which, you know, there's a lot of these that are immediate red flags when you just hear that. But yeah, so it's very broad, but super, super interesting.
A lot of people listening won't know what red teaming is, or what the concept of what a red team is, as opposed to in the industry a blue team. And can you just give us a bit of origin about, this is not a new concept, where it's from? It didn't come from Neo choosing the red or blue pill in the Matrix. That's not where it originated. Can you give us a bit of a backstory and explain?
Yeah, also doesn't come from
originated?
Halo, red or blue team.
Yeah.
No, I think this originated in the military. I believe during the Cold War or something, where basically the military was trying to do these exercises where they would pretend to be a communist invasion force of some sort and try to break into things or attack things and do these simulations. So this is carried over into software security, where typically red teams are teams within or outside a company sometimes that essentially try to break your own products, try to break in and see how far they can get. And then the blue team is typically sort of a defensive team that looks into how can we, what's going on with the product? Do we need to shore up defenses? Do we need to look at something? And then technically, I guess there's something called a purple team as well, where the red team and blue team sort of work together in the same room, where the red team's like, oh, I think I can get in. And then the blue's like, oh, let me come check what's going on.
Yeah.
In a way, that's more kind of what we do on the AI red team, I guess, is, we collaborate. We sort of get on a phone call, try to understand the product, and then we go in, do our thing, and we have constant communication, like at least on a weekly basis. We're like, hey, here's the things we've been seeing. You guys should look at this. But yeah, so the term red teaming is really very security focused thing, but it came from the military originally.
Another term I often see in conjunction with red teaming is chaos engineering. Is that something that you touch into as well? And can you explain what your definition of chaos engineering is?
Well, I'll fully admit I'm still learning a lot about the very traditional security stuff as well. But yeah, chaos engineering is very much on the security focused side. And like I said, what we do is very broad. So on our team, it's a very diverse team in the sense that we have folks on the team who are like PhDs in machine learning, and we have traditional security experts who know all about that sort of thing, like chaos engineering, whatever. They have folks like myself who have a product development background. So, it's very, very broad. We have folks that are involved with the military. So we don't directly do advisory, but we do attend we have some folks that attend a lot of sort of military and policy type of conferences directly on our team, but us at Microsoft are involved at that level. So it's super, super broad. So yeah, chaos engineering, but then also like policy, and it's like all over the place.
Just as we hit Christmas, I saw a whole bunch of stuff, not from Microsoft, come out around jailbreaking LLMs, right? And I saw some stuff for like if you construct your sentence in camel casing, and that was the one that stood out to me because I'd seen the term in a developer, in my background. And I was like, I would assume, and obviously in a call like this, we can't talk about the actual techniques and stuff because we're trying to prevent to be used for harm, right?
I mean, a lot of it, there's plenty to be found a quick Google search away.
Yeah,
but yes.
Exactly. But is it a case of you just following patterns and procedures to do this testing? Or do you find yourself in a situation where you're like, I'm going to try, like iterative always that you're learning new ways to break? Because it's interesting. I just went through a process yesterday of implementing passkey in my M365 tenant, right, for my organization. And I was just like, I watched this video and this person was like, well, haven't we just got MFA? And then before MFA, we had sent a text message. And I'm like, and he was like, because hackers are always learning new techniques, we always have to learn or create new security measures. On the fly is the speed of things happening that you're coming up with, hey, based on these things happening last week, I'm going to try this way because you've had a new mindset change or something like that, or a new, and of course, with a diverse team that you have, you're a melting pot of one idea is going to spark another idea. How fluid is it and how structured is it?
I feel like it sort of comes in waves a little bit, right? Especially at the company. So, we do sometimes get involved with OpenAI as well when they release something new. Obviously, we're a big partner, so we usually get our hands on that as well. And that's usually sort of a spark, right? Let's say, when the O1 stuff came out with the chain of thought reasoning, for us, it was like, okay, we need to come up with something new. Like, how are we going to play with this? How are we going to test this?
Yeah.
And then that happens. And then there's usually a bit of a lag. And then you start seeing products at Microsoft adopting it or figuring out ways.
Mm-hmm.
So we usually have like a little bit of warning that like something new is coming out, because that's sort of the different things, right? So one is maybe somebody comes up with a new way of using the existing LLMs in a novel way, like some product innovation. We're like, oh, we're going to do this. And then obviously we'll have to figure out how can we, like, there's an assumption that we can always jailbreak a model, but what does that mean in the sense of how it's used in the product? Maybe it's not even useful at all that we can. So there's some novelty there based on the product, but then there's also novelty based on just the new AI stuff that's coming out. So, we had, I think in the fall, we were looking into a lot of the audio stuff, right? That's coming out. So the advanced voice stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's completely new. We need to come up, okay, can we still jailbreak? Do we just say that the jailbreak out loud, or how does that work? But then you come up with new things like, okay, well, same with text actually, is like, how does it react to different languages or different accents? And that could be a thing with harmful content, but it could also be, to your point, like in text, you're doing capitalization or you're like using emojis to sort of maybe get past certain filters. What does that mean when we're doing audio? And then you got the same with images, right? And now we're starting to see video chat, right? We were basically talking and it can see you. And so there's novelty in all these things. And in fact, recently on the team, we've sort of separated out, because we've been hiring a lot of folks who've been growing just to keep up. And we have now a separate team that can take, because like I said, we usually only have a few weeks to work on these things because, of course, they're on a deadline. They want to release it. So we now have a team that's dedicated to doing sort of longer term things where maybe we look at a product and we say, hey, this is something novel and we feel pretty good about what we've tested. And then the board can decide to approve it or not. But maybe there's something we want to go further. We want to play more with this just to learn more or to see more. And then so we now have, well, not separate. I mean, we're still sort of together, but a group of folks that are sort of taking this and doing more research longer term and actually also trying to stay ahead of it. Where I think video right now we're struggling with, with text, you can generate a lot of text and you can, we have our open source tool called a Pirate that we can use to send thousands and thousands of messages really quickly to an endpoint to see all the stuff that we get back. How does that go with video? Like, are we uploading gigabytes? Can we generate videos? Can we use something like Sora, generate bad videos to send? I mean, there's all sorts of things. So for sure, it's a constantly moving thing. And it's a good mix of tried and true stuff, but also being creative on the spot based on what we're doing.
You can deny or confirm this, up to you. It's an edgy question. Are you playing with O3 yet?
I would not be able to tell you if I was, for sure. But yeah, we do get these. Usually, I mean, obviously, it's all very tight-lipped. There's tons and tons of NDAs. But yeah, we do get
in
to see
December
some of
they
these
had
stuff
said that they
before
were
it comes
getting
out.
all their security piece. It wouldn't be released straight away because it was going through that, and they were even inviting, if you're a security researcher.
I'll say, obviously follow that news a lot, and I'll ping my manager to be like, hey, I saw this thing. And then even if they know, they'll be like, well, if we do, I'll tell you when we do, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'll get it like last minute. Like I think when we got O1, I think that was literally like 3 or 4 days before the announcement was.
Wow, that's not long.
I mean, I think there is some effort to get them to give it to us a bit earlier, because that's like work over the weekend type of stress, which we'd rather not do too often.
How much is your view of the world changing? And, because this is on the bleeding edge of so much change like we've never seen before. And you were saying, with the image prompting and stuff, you could get into some grimy places, right, with what you're doing. And, I've talked with police photographers that, photograph crime scenes and stuff. And they said, listen, this is not something you do a career on. Is you got a few years and then your mind is just like, I'm done. Like, I don't want to see any more of humanity this way. And so how much of, I don't know, philosophy and the way you look at the world and even the separation from sci-fi / modern day marketing / reality, how does that all gel with you? And I'm not saying how's that gel with Microsoft. I'm asking from your perspective and what you can say, how do things sit?
Dynamics Minds is one event you don't want to miss. Microsoft product managers and industry leaders from all over the world converge in Slovenia to explore the latest in Dynamics 365, the Power Platform, and CoPilot. Expect 3 days of in-person community connection, trailblazing insights, and a location sure to inspire our creativity. Early bird tickets are on sale now, and podcast listeners get 10% off by registering via the link in the show notes. Hope to see you there.
So I'll touch on the mental health aspect. I mean, that was something that came up even in my interview with the team before I joined. It's like, we do deal with this stuff and something to be very much aware of. So there's a high focus on that. I mean, it's part of the job. I wouldn't say that it's something we deal with all the time, but we do deal with it on a regular basis. The good thing is we have great support. So all levels of management, we have a lot of extra resources we can tap into if we need to for mental health support. We do also basically try to make sure we have a very open culture with the team. So it's very clear that, everybody has their breaking point or their things that they do not, they just can't deal with. And we're very open with that. We're like, if I have to deal with this or with that, I'm just not going to do it. You have the right for refusal, basically.
Yeah.
Which is great. Obviously that goes into multiple directions. There's certain content is like straight up illegal. So we deal with a lot of the attorneys as well. If we do have to go down that direction, we have to sort of make sure there's certain things we literally cannot test, not just because we wouldn't want to see it, but also because it's downright illegal. And then there's other things that, we're in the US, there's export controls, there's all sorts of things. So anything to do with like chemical weapons or whatever, we sometimes have to test for those things. We have folks that are specialized in that, but that has to be, handled with extra security. Like those things cannot be shared with our remote employees. So there's a lot of different levels, but mental health is something we're highly focused on. And it's great to see that. We're trying to be very open with each other, good culture. So far that's been great. I forgot what the second part of your
philosophy, view of the world.
Oh, yes.
Sci-fi marketing reality.
Our CVP reminded me the other day that, we have to be mindful of our skepticism because basically we deal with nothing but failure modes.
Yeah.
Right. So although I'm still optimistic, I love the prospect of AI, what it can do. I see it do nothing but fail basically on a daily basis. Right. So I do have to sometimes take a step back and be like, okay, it's not all bad.
Yeah.
I do feel obviously there's a lot of marketing, a lot of hype going on. I think there's tons of useful stuff out there as well.
Yeah.
I personally do think that I'm still waiting for a killer app, to be honest. I think there's a lot of cool stuff, a lot of useful stuff, but I feel like there's more there. I feel like even with the technology that exists today, I feel like there could be more interesting things being done that I haven't seen yet. I think a lot of everybody's sort of going for the quick wins. I think, everybody's trying to stay ahead of the game. So things like, summarizing and generating text and all these things. Sure. Search.
Yeah.
All cool. But I'm still waiting to see something that's like, oh my God, this is fantastic.
Yeah. For me, it's my digital twin. That's what I'm after.
Yeah.
It thinks like me, it acts, behaves like me, and therefore it can take a bunch of stuff off, but it'll act as though I am absolutely doing it.
Yeah. And we'll see. I mean, this new sort of agent stuff that's coming out, I mean, some of it is, some of it is just repackaging of what we had last year.
Repackaging if-then statements.
Yeah. I mean, there's always a level of marketing at every company, and, we're not immune to that either. But there's definitely actual new stuff that's being built in this agent. And I'm excited to see what people are going to do with that. I think it does have a positive impact on like accuracy and things like that. It actually, I've seen so far positive impact on security as well, but I've also seen negative impact on security where people go overboard without thinking. And then, you have some of these agent systems are basically multiple LLMs in the background talking to each other. Can we convince one LLM to poison all the other ones? Convince, stuff like that we're looking into. So it's good and bad. But I think that to me, it's an interesting concept. But I feel a lot of it is still very much sort of research. And I'm just waiting to see the killer app. I mean, don't get me wrong, a lot of this is cool, right? And a lot of people are saying, well, the goalpost is being moved. And in a way, that's true, right? If you would have shown you ChatGPT just 5 or 10 years ago. You've been, wow, that's crazy. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But then the question today is like, yeah, we're kind of used to it. And now we're seeing it's not always accurate, or it's still amazing technology, right? But the productivity part, I think everybody's still kind of figuring out for themselves, where can I use it to make myself more productive? But I think the killer app is what I'm looking forward to seeing.
Yeah. I read earlier this week that when the US first put man on the moon, that rocket mission was the trajectory, etc., of getting there was they failed all the way to the moon, right? And that skepticism, right? It requires the failure to stay on track. It requires the rocket to go off track to go, hey, you're off track. I need to bring you back on track. Right. But it's about going, hey, we're failing, rather than, hey, actually, we're making these incremental gains and we're moving forward. And I see the same thing about marketing. I can go, oh, that's marketing. But I'm like, yeah, but it's sparking ideas. It's sparking ideas of the future. And, organizations move so slowly that I can understand the need to put the marketing down, because in a lot of organizations, it'll be 3 years before they do something about it. But you have to get those tracks laid so that that's starting to become part of the conversation that's had in these organizations, even though, when I think of agentic AI, it's a copy of me, probably 5 or so years away from that happening. That's what I want right now, but I'm very much wanting the future now, but not everybody does. So,
and I think, like I said, it's a lot of it is research, and there's tons of cool research. We circulate a lot of papers amongst our team where people find things online and we sort of discuss it. A lot of cool things coming out, but to your point, by the time it gets to a product team, and then by the time that the product team actually understands what the research is telling them or how to even apply it, it all takes time, right? So I know sometimes it feels that we're in this mode right now where it's just throwing spaghetti at the wall. And to a degree, there's some of that for sure. But I think what you're saying is correct. It's like also just product engineers trying to like figure out what are the limits of what it can do? What are the limits of when it's useful, right? Because there's some things that are like, oh, this seems like cool, save me time. And they're like, it's just annoying. It doesn't save me any time. It's just annoying. And it's a whole new world also on user research and user experience research as far as how do we make it useful? How does it not get it? Like, remember Clippy, right? I think that's the perfect example where you don't want that thing keep popping up saying, hey, do you need some help with that? In some contexts, it's good, but in some it's get annoying quickly. And so figuring those things out, I think at all levels of product development needs to be figured out, not just engineering, but user research, to your point, marketing. But the competition's fierce, so everybody's full steam ahead.
What do you know now that you didn't know 2 years ago?
Whew. Wow, that's a loaded question.
Of course, that you can share.
Well, I mean, I joined this team in April, right, of 2024. So I feel like I've learned a ton at a personal level, just the skills, but also just about AI and LLMs. And what do I know now? I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. I think from a skills perspective, lots. I mean, just from simple things like having to deal with Python, which wasn't really dealing with much before, all the way down to sort of machine learning things that I had no idea about. Yeah, it's a lot.
It's cool. Hopes and dreams for 2025.
Hopes and dreams. I mean, to be fair, when I made this jump to the AI red team was a bit of a gamble, right? I mean, I've been in biz apps for my whole career pretty much, which is, dare I say it, like more than 20 years at this point. So you're basically saying, you know what, I'm going to do something completely different. Part of it, of course, was like, okay, there's tons of investment right now, but still, you just don't know, right? It's a very different thing than doing product development. But so far, it's been absolutely fantastic. I love, for the previous point, how much I've been having to learn and step up and do all those things. And just getting to see, I mean, I love technology. I know you do too. So it's just cool to see all the things that people are working on. And I like the diversity of the work, diversity of the team. Like you said, we just sometimes have to put our heads together, and then somebody comes out of left field with something you've never heard of before. And it's like, you know, we have ex-military folks that sometimes say things like, wait, what? And then, we should try that, you know?
Yeah.
So that's super cool. So the hopes and dreams, really, at this point, I'm still new to this team, but I hope the trajectory continues. of what it's been so far, for sure. Yeah, that's my big thing. Just keep learning.
Now I'm going to ask for some advice. One of the things that I talked to you just before we went on air is about FOBU, which is posted on LinkedIn today, the fear of being obsolete. Right. And my question is, and of course the concept behind it here is that people worried about how do I upskill so that I don't become obsolete in whatever career they're in. We're not just talking about tech, we're talking about anything.
Yeah.
If folks are wanting to develop their skills, and you've said you've been drinking from the fire hose in the last part year as your skills are developed, if you're in this space, or, let's say take me, technology is something that's really, core in my life, what go-do things do you think people should consider as part of their training schedule over the next, I'm only asking the next 3 to 6 months, because I just feel everything's evolving so quickly. But if you were saying right now, let's say here I am, a buddy, and I say to you, hey, what do you recommend I go study this, go study that, go check that out? What would your advice to me be?
That's a good question. I think of myself a bit like a generalist. I love to know a lot about different things. Mm-hmm. I'm typically not like a deep expert in any of them, but I can hold a conversation kind of thing. But also I am a hands-on guy. So that to me, I feel like, especially with this, is something that I would encourage anyone. Like, just play with it, try it out, even if doesn't seem immediately useful. I know my wife, she's not as technical as I am at all. She tries to avoid technology if she can, in the sense that she doesn't wants to deal with it or learn it if it's too difficult. But she just got into it herself. Like, obviously, English is our second language for us. So for her, it's been super helpful to help write things in her job. So once she discovered that, she just doesn't want to give it up anymore. But it's one of those things where I had to show her a few times, like, hey, here's what you could do. Or she'd come to me, it's like, hey, could you help me with this? Like, just let's pull up CoPilot and try it out, see if it. And so that's one of the things, just playing with it, trying it out. And of course, you don't always have the time to do that, or in your job, you may not even have the access to do it. But there's tons of free stuff out there as well. So I feel like hands-on is a good thing. You start feeling out, what can it do? What can't it do? It's like Google search, right? When we first started doing searches, it was like pure keywords based. And then as Google, we now call it Google Foo, is like somebody who's very good at doing searches. The same kind of thing. You sort of have to figure out how to use it. And I feel it's the same with this, getting hands-on. And then for the rest, for me, I love reading. So maybe I'm the only user out there that still uses RSS feeds, but I don't like algorithmic curation too much. So I really do not like timelines on Facebook or whatever it is where stuff gets pushed to you based on what you saw yesterday. It's like, I don't want to see the same thing. I want to see something new. So I love RSS feeds where I subscribe to like technical websites. Ars Technica is one of my favorites, but there's a ton of them. And I scroll through my RSS feed like my dad used to read the paper, just like scanning the headlines, like, oh, this looks interesting, I'm going to read that. I do a ton of that. And I like to curate for myself, not just have something fed to me through a YouTube algorithm or whatever, because I want to discover things that I don't know yet. Like, and sometimes you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
And so finding some general websites or podcasts or whatever to follow will spark ideas or things like, I didn't know this existed, or I've never heard of this. Let me look that up. That's how you learn, right? And then trying it hands-on to me is super useful.
What's your feed reader of choice?
I use Feedly, which I think is now owned by Google.
Yep. And it came from one of the other best products. I remember when it transitioned through.
Yeah.
Interesting you say that. It's made me go, oh my gosh, because I've just decided, and it's, what is it, January the 9th for me, 8th for you, I suppose. I've decided to leave all social media this year after being heavily in it last year. Like one of my challenges I set myself was to do 100 TikTok videos in 100 days of posting a TikTok video. So I was pretty much posting 7 days a week on LinkedIn, blah, blah, blah. I've decided, and I've removed all the apps, they're gone. My wife just said, oh, you should look at this Instagram reel. I said, don't have the app anymore. Come and show me on your phone, right? And because I'm sick of the algorithmic, right? Like the minute you said that, it was like a light bulb for me. I'm like, that's it. That's the right definition of it. And I used to love RSS, like 4 years ago. Feedly, I had it, I'd go in and as you say, scan the headlines, and you've just shown me, of course, how to bypass the algorithm. I'll hit you up for your OPML file.
Yeah.
To get
I mean, I went through mine actually, and I got rid of a bunch of dynamic stuff that I'm like, okay, not that I want to lose all links there. I love that community, but I skimmed through and I got rid of a bunch of stuff and I added a bunch of like security things and AI things. And again, you just read things that you're reading and you're like, I have no idea what they're talking about, but you just immerse yourself, right? Yeah. It's an immersion in a way, and you can pick and choose things that an algorithm would never suggest you read that article.
No,
because by definition, you don't know what it is, and the algorithm knows that you've never looked at it before. Yeah. So is a big thing. Yeah.
I love it. This has been a massively awesome conversation. Thank you so much for taking your time. I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Mark Smith, otherwise known as the NZ365 guy. Is there a guest you would like to see on the show from Microsoft? Please message me on LinkedIn and I'll see what I can do. Final question for you. How will you create with CoPilot today? Ka kite.
Are you ready to accelerate your career in the Microsoft ecosystem? The 90-Day Mentoring Challenge, created by Mark Smith, is your opportunity to create a personalized pathway to success. Join over 1,200 alumni from more than 70 countries who have achieved remarkable results, from promotions to new job opportunities. Take it from Nathan, who said, since completing the 90-Day Mentoring Challenge, I've become an MVP in business applications and doubled my income. Or from Parves, who shares, I've never felt as inspired or energized about my career as I do now. Sign up at arcor.nz365guy.com. You can find the link in the show notes. And if you use the code podcast, you'll get 10% off.